You are listening to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, the first ever Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. And I have with me my co-hosts. First in studio here is Donovan Fowler. And then joining us from the Great White North, John G. Goodman. How are you guys doing? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Still alive.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, happy. Yeah, you guys got any big plans for the St. Patty's Day? Other than this?
Gonna acquaint myself with a 6-pack of Murphy's and
Okay.
maybe, I don't know, watch some good old Irish films.
Irish films?
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, John? What you doing?
I'm just going to stay warm. I'll be happy if I'm nice and warm.
Well, this is actually, let's start off a little bit of a housekeeping here, right? Today, what are you drinking there, Donovan?
I am drinking in my flask. I have a flask full of Bushmills
Oh, there you
today.
go.
And it's
In with the
keeping me
holiday
nice
spirit.
and warm.
How about you, John? What do you got there?
I've got a beautiful Moretti beer.
Oh, yeah.
I added a few drops of blue food coloring to celebrate, St. Patty's Day.
But, I mean, why blue food coloring? I mean, is this a joke? What's...
Oh, blue and yellow beer, you make green.
Okay.
Come on,
Gotcha.
Jordan, learn your rainbow.
That's some real first grade art class.
I will say,
stuff.
I would have never thought of that. I would have just put green in my drink and would assume it would have come out well. And I bet you it would have. And I am drinking what is called the Oatmeal Stockyard Stout, which is the Irish stout from Trader Joe's, which is only $5.99 a 6-pack, which
Is
I
it
actually
really
enjoy.
Is it really Irish though? I see San Jose, California on there. I don't know if that counts as Irish these days.
Local Irish.
Yeah.
What's the point
Yeah,
of this?
some Irish guy in San Jose.
What's the point of this bottle opener, Donovan?
It's I don't know. It's small and it's light and there we go.
Piece of junk.
Yeah. No, it's good. I got it off Huckberry.
Huckberry.
Huckberry.com, and it's like it hasn't broken or bent or anything.
Nice.
Carbon fiber.
And I'm and also today I'm smoking my Peterson pipe, which is Peterson's of Dublin. It's a Dublin shaped pipe, and it is a Killarney model. And in it, I am smoking just some basic Lane 1Q. So.
And while Jordan's lighting up there, I guess I'll say that I am smoking my my Country Gentleman corncob pipe with Peterson blend Peterson Luxury Blend, which is an Irish tobacco. Very appropriate, very apropos for the day.
Well, Peterson's getting some free advertising out of this.
That smells nice.
All right. Yeah, it does smell good. This thing's, you know what? It's not exactly Lane 1Q.
I like how John, when I said that smells nice, he went,
Yeah.
My lady of the house frowns upon such activities. Therefore, my current predicament is smoke and pipeless.
Well,
It's okay.
We'll talk about that later about pipe smoking, because it's something that I've gotten into over the last year, and I think it's gotten a bad rap, and it's a big part of our logo. So, all right. Well, it's funny here because you guys have never met each other in person, right? And I've actually known John since I was a kid. We went to school together. We were writing partners together in college. It's just funny that so John's my best friend, and I would say probably that Donovan, you'd be my LA best friend. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if that's new.
I hold
that's
that
news.
title around LA. I'm the LA best
He's a
friend.
lot of people's LA best friend, which is how it works in LA.
When people want to say the world, like you're the best friend, you're my best friend in the whole wide world, but in reality, they're just like you're my best friend in LA.
Jordan, how does that make you feel if he's not exclusive with you.
It hurts a little bit.
Well, I mean, Glendale and Hollywood they're pretty far apart. I mean,
Yeah, it's a whopping 18 minutes.
If you have to get on the freeway, you don't have to be exclusive with that person.
But so you're all the way in the Great White North. How are things in Montreal? I haven't been back in over 10 years.
Well, I guess the big news this week, we had a record-breaking snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all they've been talking about for the last few days. And, the night it happened, actually, 100 people got stuck on one of the main highways for the entire night.
Really?
And, the next morning, people are calling in all distressed on the radio, talking about their experiences. And one of their main complaints is, we were stuck for 13 hours. We didn't even have water. And I thought, these poor people, if only there was some sort of, largely abundant natural substance that one could use to prevent dehydration.
Oh, man.
In any form.
Alrighty. Well, we should probably talk about what this show's all about, right? Now, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while, and I've been a big fan of many podcasts over the years. Comedy Bang Bang being one. The Kevin Pollak Cat Show. That's one that I would like to see. Of course, Art of Manliness, and then recently the Country Squire radio podcast, and those are the ones I like to listen to. But I've always wanted to try and do a chat comedy show, with friends based on just a bunch of different gentlemanly interests. And since we live and work in Hollywood, I have a lot of friends that work in the entertainment industry, and those are the kind of guests that I'm going to have on this show in future episodes. This show is more of just kind of an introduction to us and what we're going to be doing here. So forgive us for trying some of these things out. It's still a work in progress for us, and we'd like to know what kind of stuff you'd like to hear on the show, what kind of guests or segments you would like to see. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and send us messages through any of those social platforms, and we'll be glad to answer them on the show. Donovan, I just realized that St. Patrick's Day is usually takes place during Lent. I assume it's always during Lent, right?
That is correct. Yeah, for as long as I can remember, it was like typically during Lent and during spring break for most people.
Which, for those of you who don't know, Donovan is Catholic. And he's always given up something for Lent when I try to call him and be like, hey, let's go do this thing. He's like, no, can't, Lent. How does St. Patrick's Day figure into that, right? Because it seems like every form of debauchery on the planet is legal on St. Patrick's Day, and it's a Catholic holiday.
Well, you're quite correct. It is a Catholic holiday, and there are a lot of Catholics in Ireland. And traditionally, Lent, you get a free pass if it's a feast day. So every Sunday is a feast day. So you get to cheat on whatever you gave up. I mean, obviously, if you gave up like cocaine, it doesn't count to do cocaine on a Sunday.
Is there like a rider in the Catholic Bible that says it's okay?
I'm sure in the catechism, I'm sure there's a list of things that you can't do on feast days. It's not just a free pass, but yeah. So so for example, this Lent, I gave up booze just because I thought like why challenge myself, and so St. Patrick's Day, obviously, it's nice to have a little whiskey and a little a stout. So yeah, got to indulge a bit,
yeah. And been waiting for it all week. So you get 2 indulgent days, right? Or is it does this count as St. Patrick's Day weekend? Is it like 4th of July weekend?
No, well, that's actually a good question because on Thanksgiving we get a special dispensation because it used to be that during Lent you can't eat meat on Fridays, and it used to be that was a year-round sacrifice, because of Christ died on a Friday. So after Thanksgiving, the Pope would say, hey, if whatever, all you American Catholics out there, it's fine to eat meat because we all know that you got to have your turkey. So I suppose you could maybe say Saturday, let that run over in between. I don't know. But yeah, it's nice.
It's always good to have loopholes when you need them.
Oh yeah.
Which pope decided to be turkey friendly and change the rules?
Yeah, he also baptized a whole what would they flock of turkeys before they were massacred during the Inquisition.
How do you baptize a turkey?
I tried to give my
quickly because otherwise they run away.
I tried to give my parrot a bath and he freaks out. I couldn't imagine trying to do a turkey.
But no, I actually, this was something I learned this last Thanksgiving, or I guess I knew it, but I just never really thought about it. Thanksgiving really wasn't a holiday until FDR declared it one.
Really?
So yeah, it was a historical thing, but FDR for some reason declared third Thursday or last Thursday in November to be a national holiday called Thanksgiving. So I imagine it was whatever Pope was around during FDR. I think maybe it was Pius. I'm trying to remember World War II Pope. I don't know, Pius the 11th or something like that. But
it's hard to keep track of all the popes.
It is. There's a lot of them. In fact, there's now we have we have two living popes. It's very rare. One of them stepped down recently, and then another one took on the hat.
We were talking about kind of podcasts and stuff that I like to listen to. What do you guys want like for the podcast? What are certain influences? What are some things you liked of some other podcasts? What kind of segments or thing? Like if you had like anything, what do you guys? What's your goal for the show?
To have people listen to it.
It's always a good goal.
I'd like to be able to, meet some interesting folk.
That's always a good plus.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I like as far as influences and stuff. I feel like I listen. I find Joe Rogan's podcast pretty. Is that what you're asking? Like whether what podcasts we listen to and stuff like that.
Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like most podcasts that are sort of that seem like they're semi informal and just I mean, this is hard because John and I are meeting for the first time. In some respects, this is like a bunch of guys meeting for the first time and getting to know one another. But that can be interesting. Yeah. But intellectually curious podcasts where you're exploring new topics and just sort of comfortable within your own zone, so to speak.
I'm very comfortable in my own zone right now because right now I'm not wearing any pants and nobody has to know that.
And that's making me very uncomfortable because I'm wearing a tuxedo. I went the other route.
That's right. You look like an Irish gentleman there.
I do. I
look like an Irish gangster.
You do. Yeah. I actually was trying to. I should have a paddy hat like yours. You look like the Irish like mill worker, and I'm kind of the guy. I'm the clerk.
And John looks like the guy that just showed up at the bar and forgot it was St. Patrick's Day.
What's going on?
He's got the green. See, we if we could pinch John, we would, but then he'd have green beer to throw on our faces. So,
oh no,
that's right.
Do you guys know that tradition? That if you're not wearing green, you get pinched.
Well, I know that. I didn't know that you throw beer in somebody's face.
Oh no! Well, that could be that could be a defense. I mean, growing up with like 6 other siblings who were all looking to they were
any excuse to pinch you.
Exactly. Yeah, they would. If you didn't wake up with some sort of green on you, you were mercilessly pinched.
That seems fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one person that pinched me on St. Patrick's Day. It was the last person who pinched me on St. Patrick's Day.
I think you recently said that joke to me. It was I'm not saying oh you're repeating the joke because it's a good joke, but I once asked you has anybody ever called you Jordy? you were like one guy did, and he was the last guy. And it wasn't quite that way, but like you were the way you responded was like perfect.
Well, speaking of handles, I've got a couple of beefs to pick with both of you, right? So John Goodman is obviously a famous actor. That's kind of creates some marketplace confusion. So what are you going to go by? Are you going to just going to stick to your guns and hope that you'll eclipse John Goodman or
I think I may have to rethink my moniker.
And it takes a lot to eclipse John Goodman. I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah. The jokes that, growing up would kind of follow the guy's career. So, the early 90s, it was Roseanne. And then you got, the Flintstones jokes and, hey, Fred, where's Wilma? And then, Big Lebowski came out.
Am I
For
the
some
only
reason,
one?
no one ever mentions that one.
Which
it's the one,
that's
the one with the most material.
That's like a meme too. Like the whole like Colt 45 in the bowling alley. Like, am I the only one who cares about whatever?
That's good. That's true. And you. First of all, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow the show on Gent Scofflaw, or you can follow me at Jordan Crowder, John at John G. Goodman, and then this asshole doesn't have a Twitter.
You can follow me nowhere because I have been very reluctant with social media. It's not like a pretentious thing or me trying to set myself apart. It's just I am incredibly lazy, and I just people have been signing up for Twitter, and like all the years my roommate was telling me like, oh, you should get a Twitter, and I was just like, one, I have like ADD, so I'd be tweeting all sorts of stuff that I'd come to regret, like 2 years down the road.
In with everybody else.
I know, right? And then on top of that, recently I've been getting the news that Twitter is supposedly like dead.
Really?
I mean, isn't that the thing that like they keep saying like that Twitter is a platform that can't sustain itself or something like that?
I guess, but you said that you don't want to be pretentious, and then I looked to see if you are on Instagram, and your handle is Warrior Poet 85.
Let's get it right, Jordan. It's Warrior Poet 95.
Is it 95?
It was the only thing at the time. I was like, well, what should I do? Should I do like just like Donovan Fowler? And then I thought of the movie. My favorite movie is Braveheart, and the last line in that movie is, "They fought like warrior poets. They fought like Scotsmen." And as you know, Braveheart came out in 1995, so that's how I set it apart. But yeah, you're right. It is
what kind of an Irishman are you?
Hey, like I said, it's all to me. To me, it's all about anybody who wants to join us against the British. I'm fine with. And I'm sure as Canadian, you probably, I mean, you guys know about that, right?
Yeah. Well, my bloodline is British. Crowder is a British last name.
But then your mom's French, right?
Yeah. I have more French in me than I have anything else. But
yeah.
And what do you? What about you, John? What's in you?
I'm a mutt. I've got everything.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've got some native Canadian heritage of some sort.
That's right, because you never would sunburn, right?
Oh, that's a lie.
What do they call that? First Nation in Canada?
Yeah, they're Indians.
First Nation people.
I'm not sure what the politically correct term is these days. It changes with the tides.
It's just there's no reason to try and keep up with that.
Yeah.
Unless somebody gets offended.
The people that were here first, but not really, but I'm kind of here now, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I just seem to remember that you used to tan really well, but not get burned. And I thought that was used to attribute that to being part Native American.
I think that was just being so far north because I visited Florida. I smelled bacon.
Oh, man. That's good.
Canadian bacon.
There you go. Another great Michael Moore masterpiece.
I was just going to say, let's not...
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was like his one narrative.
Have you seen him recently? He looks like a lesbian Walter White.
I just remember watching him. It was the day after the election, and it was the weirdest thing because, yes, you're right. He has long hair. He's a guy who doesn't look good no matter what he does. Like he loses weight and he still looks like, he's still ugly. But sorry, Michael Moore, don't mean to hurt your feelings. But like the day after the election, he was sitting there on MSNBC and he was wearing like a sweater with a white shirt and like nice slacks. And he looked really kind of casual professional. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the interview, I don't know if he thought he wasn't on camera or something, but he just puts on this baseball cap really awkwardly. I think it was because he meant to have it on, but he forgot. And he puts it on his head and he doesn't even go full on. Like it's just halfway on his head and his hair's all.
That would drive me nuts.
It was, I've been trying to find the clip, but I just thought it was the most bizarre thing. And I think it was somebody in his ear was like, "Hey, you don't have the baseball cap on." I've already made enemies with the British Michael Moore and somebody else.
Some Irish.
Yeah, some Irish. Yeah, all the Protestant non-drinkers in Ireland.
Oh, you guys hear that?
What?
You know what that sound means? It means that it's time for a review.
Sir Crowder's Restroom Review of the Week. Oh dear.
Well, this is a segment I've been doing for a long time online. Well, this is technically online, but I mean on Yelp. I am somewhat of a well-known Yelp reviewer, and I wanted to bring some of those onto the show. First of all, have you been to the new IKEA in Burbank? John doesn't know about this because he hasn't lived here.
I have not.
Yeah, I was able to review the new IKEA in Burbank restroom. And I don't know if you've tried to get there, but it's impossible to find parking there.
Which is weird because usually they have big parking lots.
Well, they have a huge parking lot, and they literally just have guys in crossing guard uniforms telling people to circle the lot, and it took 2 hours to find parking in there to go get a spatula. So
It's like a whole extra level to the IKEA nightmare.
yeah, and I think this is the biggest in the world. But anyway, let's go to my official review of the new IKEA restroom. The IKEA washroom is nothing special to look at. Its gray tile and cold steel stalls is typical of minimalist, socialist, Swedish design. But at second glance, one notices the fine attention to detail. The stall is well stocked with not one but 2 rolls of toilet paper. It also includes a hook for your purse or jacket, as well as an emergency button behind the toilet in case you begin to rise above sea level. 4 stars for this simple yet functional design of this restroom.
Out of what? what's the
You can only do 4 stars on 5 stars on Yelp. So
yeah.
it's pretty up there. It's a clean restroom.
As I said, social media and I don't get along.
If you ever have a 1-star review, please warn me in advance.
I will.
And maybe take a shower.
I'll let you know. And if you want to read more of these restroom reviews, you can read them on Yelp. If you look at the show notes, there'll be a link to my Yelp profile where you can read all of my restroom reviews. Now it's time for
Listener Mail.
Now, I know this seems kind of weird to do listener feedback on the first episode, but I put out a couple of feelers on social media the other day because, we've been promoting the podcast, and I asked, what sort of questions does anybody have for the new podcast? John, what's with your crap-eating grin?
I'm just looking at some of these Twitter handles, and I'm just like, why?
Well, John, what did we get on Twitter this week? What sort of questions?
All right. Well, Farty Meldman's eyes.
Wait. Enunciate that for those who are
Farty Meldman eyes. Eyes spelt EYZ.
And I'm going to say, I know that username because he was a big follower of my brother's podcast. If you listen to his great podcast, you can listen to it, Louder with Crowder. But he's a big fan of his show, so that's how he found out about us.
Okay, well, he wants to know, what is a scofflaw?
A scofflaw, which is a good question. We probably should have mentioned that in the opening.
I don't even know what a scofflaw is. I have an idea.
Essentially, it's someone who has either been kicked or dropped out of law school.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that really it?
That's it. That's right. No.
So it's somebody
okay. Well, actually, the first time, this is actually interesting. The first time I ever heard of the term scofflaw was I watched this. This is going to sound super pretentious, but I was watching this Ken Burns documentary about Prohibition. And
that's like 1990s pretentious. Yeah, I was watching this Ken Burns documentary
How
on
those
PBS.
40 hours,
that's like trying to pick up a girl at a Third Eye Blind concert.
Classic pan and scan.
So it was about Prohibition, and there was a term that came up for people that that bucked the laws, that scoffed at the laws of prohibition and still drank anyway in their homes, in private, all that stuff. They would call them a scofflaw. And so I feel like that goes in the spirit of the show because we go against the grain, guys. We don't fit anybody's mold.
Bunch of rebels.
Yeah.
Smoking in the house.
Exactly.
Drinking at noon.
Don't let my wife find out.
Not going into work today.
Don't tell her. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this. Yeah, and actually, I should have mentioned our tagline for the show is "For the Rebel and the Renaissance Man." So that comes in. That's where the gentleman idea comes in. We're into a bunch of different things, but we're also, a little bit, on the fringe of what is typical, and that's where the name Gentleman Scofflaw came from.
Well, and I feel like that's like a common thing that, like, I think most guys are sort of striving for these days.
Yeah.
Is like, and it's a hard balance to strike, trying to be refined, but also like, like quote unquote rugged, almost being able to go from like, wearing a classy suit to jumping out in the wilderness and cooking your own squirrel, whatever.
I think a good rule of thumb is if you need electrolysis to keep your beard line in shape, you may not be, cutting it.
No pun intended.
Do you know anybody with one of those? One of those.
I don't want to talk about it.
They're going to listen, or he's going to get in trouble with his wife. I bet. I was on Facebook the other day, and I had an ad for this thing that's like basically like this metal comb that's also a beard edger, and it had this most like metrosexual looking guy with the perfect epilated beard on the ad, and it's like, come on, guys, like what? I mean, if you're going to grow a beard, not be such a little.
Yeah, I think people need to cool it with some of the facial hair stuff that's happening. I mean, I've seen like guys with beards and who like will wax them into like looking like a windmill or something. It's just bizarre. It's really
like a windmill.
Look, Google like beard art. I hope this sends you to the right place. But like,
I'm not gonna do that.
Are you talking about the guys from Korn?
They like no. It's like a bunch of old hipsters and young hipsters too, and they grow their beards super long, and they have contests where they will like wax their beards into weird shapes. Like it's like, I guess appropriately, maybe it's called beard sculpting. I don't know. I've never done it. I don't intend on doing it.
Sounds like a waste of life.
Which brings us to our next segment, waste of life.
No, waste of life.
Not really.
Do we have any other anything else from Twitter?
We've got one more on here from Mandy Courtwright. If Clark Gable smoking a pipe and working on a car isn't living the gentleman scofflaw life, I don't know what is. That's not a question.
Well, she's got a nice little picture there of Clark Gable working on a car.
I don't see.
And she's got...
I just see a link.
She's got a point, because Clark Gable played Rhett Butler in one of the most famous movies of all time, Gone with the Wind, which I assume we've all seen, probably.
I never heard of it.
Most depressing...
It is pretty depressing.
Ever.
Yeah, you're right. It's pretty depressing.
I had to watch The Lovely Bones to pick up my spirits.
That's what my brother said I looked like when I grew my mustache. Was Stanley Tucci in The Lovely Bones.
That's not a compliment. But speaking of mustaches, Clark Gable plays Rhett Butler, who is he is indeed a gentleman scofflaw. He's like a Southern gentleman, but like he's got like in the book, I think he has like a scar on his stomach from like a knife fight he got into when he was out like mining gold in California and stuff. He's one of those Renaissance men who isn't afraid of getting his hands dirty, which is it's a cool character, I have to say.
Maybe we should have what's this movie called again?
You haven't seen Gone with the Wind? Oh my gosh! Where did you grow?
If you have 6 hours,
you grew up in Canada.
No,
I got it.
I have not seen it. I know about it, but I have not seen it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I guess I did grow up with like I said a mom. No, of course we all grew up with mothers, or I assume we did.
Hey.
Sorry.
That's you're being non-inclusive there, Donovan. What about the people who grew up without mothers?
But that being said, I grew up with 4 sisters, and they all they loved that movie. So that's maybe why I'm overexposed to it. I don't know. I also loved the Civil War when I was a kid. I was a buff. for Civil War.
Yeah, you rooted for the Confederacy.
Hey, let's not.
Hey now.
Let's not make. Hey now.
So that's from Twitter, and then I know we got some messages from Facebook. Donovan, there.
All right.
What they say on Facebook?
All right. Josh Mitchell asks, I'm considering trying out a pipe. An old man I used to know years ago used to smoke this aromatic cherry. Sorry.
It sounds like a penthouse letter the way you read it, Donovan.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Seriously. An old man I used to know years ago used to smoke this aromatic cherry. For those of you who don't know, he's talking about a tobacco. Filled the room with a sweet scent. What do I need to start? Really, there's no other pipe smokers that I know of, and I'm damn near 40 years old and interested. So this
So he wants
guy
to know what
is
he needs.
he wants to know what he needs, and it
started.
sounds like he's looking for
a recommendation.
for a recommendation and probably a friend too to smoke a pipe with. He's looking for a pipe smoking friend.
Yeah. Which is hard to find these days.
It's true.
But there are pipe smoking communities all around the country
Shout
and
out
the
to
world.
LA Pipe Club.
Yeah, shout out to Los
I
Angeles.
think that's a different kind of pipe.
That's true. It is confusing. It does get confusing. Los Angeles Pipe Club, which both Donovan and I are part of and have gone to a few times. And actually, there's a meeting this Sunday too. We should go to that. I just come. It's at that time of the month. And by that time of the month, I mean Pipe Club. I don't mean the other time of the month.
Time
Which
to smoke that aromatic cherry which doesn't sound any better. Sorry.
oh man, I never want to hear the words "time of the month" and "aromatic cherry" ever again in the same sentence. Sorry about that, Josh. So
And
yeah,
audience.
to get started in pipe smoking, I would recommend.
Who's Josh?
Josh Mitchell.
Have you
Come
been
on.
paying attention? You're like
What's going on?
You're like what's his name? The old Indian guy in Bottle Rocket when they're robbing the safe and he's like, "Who's that man?" And he's been with them the last week. He's like, "That's Applejack, man. Come on." Yeah. So. Yeah, you need a pipe to start with, and I guess I would recommend for anyone who's starting out to get a corncob pipe, like a Missouri Meerschaum is the common brand of corncob pipes. They're super cheap. You can get them anywhere from a good starter one from anywhere from $5 to $12. And what Donovan is actually smoking right now, it's called the Country Gentleman pipe. It's a nice looking pipe. It's like a big bowl. It's kind of gentlemanly looking. It looks like something that Mark Twain would have smoked. But they don't need a lot of break in to start. So you can smoke them kind of right out of the package.
They're cheap too.
They're cheap and so
made in the USA.
It's a cheap investment, and in case you don't know if you're going to stick with it or not. And then secondly, you would need a tobacco, obviously. Which if you go into any tobacconist in your town, you could get tobacco called Lane 1Q, and it's probably the most common tobacco you can get on the market in bulk. And different stores have it under different names. But if you ask for that, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Get a couple ounces of it. And then you could also get a pipe tool. And a pipe tool is basically just a tool that has a tamper on it to tamp the ashes of a tobacco, a little poker and a little scraper, a little like reamer tool on it. And there are some great videos online that people have made on how to smoke a pipe. We could talk more about that in other episodes, or I could send you a message about it. But those would be the things you would need to start, and then I'll send you a couple of links if you want to, and I'll also post those links in the crotch bar of the podcast.
You gotta change that name.
And seriously, Josh Mitchell, as far as not having anybody to smoke with, sometimes it's all right to set yourself apart because, like, honestly, like I used to in college. I used to smoke the corn cob on campus, and people would stop and they'd be like, "What is that?" Like in a good way. They'd be like, "What is that?" Like that just smells so good. So you never know. It's a nice way to unwind.
definitely. It's very introspective hobby. And also, I forgot to mention, you'll need some pipe cleaners too, which those are actual things. Like they're not just to make
That's
little
why-
fake rings out of.
That's why you can't buy them at the
elementary
store unless you're 21. Did you know that? They
Really?
won't let you buy like pipe cleaners, like the
the fluorescent pipe cleaners kids used to make little animals
Yep.
out of.
Yep, they won't let you buy that. That and air duster because you can, it's a different sort of high.
Wait, what?
Pipe cleaners and air
computer duster.
That's a crazy night.
What's
You heard of that?
Oh, you mean? Are you talking about like the compressed air?
Like
the
yeah,
fan?
like shoot your keyboard with.
What do they
Yeah.
do with that? Just
Well,
blowtorch?
No. Like people used to, they used to inhale it, and it would get them high. And I remember right around like high school, they started to card you for it, and they also put a bittering agent in there that keeps. Anyways, people
is
get
this
high
like the
off
time
it.
you told me about janking?
First of all,
Wait, what's it
it's
called?
Jenkum,
Jankum.
which we will not get into for fear of causing our audience to leave us on the first episode. But no, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. I have never done it myself, but I hear crazy stories, and it's why if you shoot air duster, you like around and like you taste it in the air, it's bitter. And it's because they're trying to discourage people from huffing it. That's the idea.
I did not know that. Full of useless information, Donovan.
I'm the Wikipedia of useless information. Yes.
All right. And also, for those of you who want to get, if you guys want any of your questions featured on the air, go ahead and send us a reply or message on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you go to gentlemanscofflaw.com, you can get all of the links to all of our social feeds. And we also have a listener voicemail, which I'm surprised that somebody was able to send us a listener voicemail for this first episode. But let's go to one here from Tim Drake.
Hey, this is Tim Drake. I just wanted to call and say, Jordan Crowder, your shows and films are awesome. I am a huge fan, and I look forward to your podcast. Is it going to be on iTunes? Can I download it from there, or where is it going to be housed at? Just curious. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day, and good luck, and I look forward to listening.
Tim Drake, that's a great name.
Yeah, this almost sounds like a fake name.
I mean, so is Josh Mitchell,
Sounds
Randy
like,
Courtwright, and Farty McMeldman Eyes. But
You didn't know it.
It's more refined though. It sounds like a made-up Seinfeld name.
But if you guys had a name like
does.
Tim Drake, would you have Twitter then?
no, I'd be out there, I'd be out there capturing actual messenger pigeons and sending them to people, that way, the old-fashioned way.
Well, thank you,
That's what we do up here.
that Pony Express postal service. Although you did get your mic pretty quickly. You got it like the next morning when I ordered it for you here in California.
Right after the
I
snowstorm,
know,
too.
it's crazy. Well, thank you for those kind words, Tim Drake. I appreciate it. And yes, the podcast will be available on iTunes, and it will be downloadable as well. And we'll also put it on SoundCloud. And you could, if you're on an Android, you'll be able to use whatever your favorite podcatcher is. Yes, I used the word podcatcher. And you can get it on our website too. You can stream it on our website, and we'll also put it on YouTube. I'll put it on the YouTube channel. So for people that that don't know about it yet, my subscribers will be able to take a look at it and hopefully subscribe on iTunes.
Is that a Jordan Crowder original podcatcher, or is that a real thing?
I think it's a real thing. I've
Okay.
heard it before.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Yeah,
Podcatcher?
If you cast a pod, somebody has to catch it.
Somebody, yeah.
Makes sense. It holds up.
All right, and that's it for.
Listener mail.
All right, well, now we're coming to the end of the podcast. It was a good first run, and unfortunately, this will be our last one. This is one time only, one night only.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to support the show, the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes, which we talked about, and like us on all those social networks. But also, if you do enjoy the show, and only if you enjoy the show, because I don't want to solicit something that's unwarranted.
Solidify.
You're getting too tired, John. It's way past your bedtime.
Yeah, he's 3 hours ahead of us. It's
Look at you. You're rubbing your eyes. I bet you that green beer isn't helping either.
I think I'm allergic to food coloring.
Yeah, if you can leave a review on the iTunes page of what you like about the show, you'll get a chance to get it read on air. Please do that, and it helps people know what the podcast is about, if it's any good, blah, blah, blah. Only if it's good. If it's sucky, please don't leave a review. Only leave it if it's good. If you hate this podcast and you leave a bad review, John will personally come from the Great White North, and you know they're crazy up there.
I'll bring some snow.
shove it down your back, like like when you were kids, you shove it down the back.
Speaking of which, John, what's the temperature out there right now?
Hovering around -4, -5.
Oh
what is that in Fahrenheit? Do you know, Donovan?
In America,
Can you convert that?
Wait, I was in Europe recently. Wouldn't that be like? Wait a minute, that would be like something like 20 degrees, maybe.
that's for you to figure out.
It's like here. It's like 80. It's like what was it? 88 degrees, 89 degrees today.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh man,
what part of Canada are you in?
he's in Montreal.
Montreal.
Oh wait, no, he's in a bunker where nobody knows where he is. Anyway, another way that you could support us eventually here will launch in April is a Patreon page where you could support the episodes at different tiers if you are a fan of the show and you want to support it, help us get better equipment, software we need to record, all that fun stuff. And if you would like to support us that way, please let us know what sort of perks you would like to receive for the different tiers on that. Because I know a lot of different podcasts have different things. They have, bonus episodes. They have behind-the-scenes stuff. They have, that kind of stuff. If there's something that you could think of that you would like to get in supporting the show, let us know because we'll be building that page out. And we want to make sure you guys are getting what you like.
25 degrees. I did the science, which means I looked it up on Apple weather, and it is just around 25 degrees. -4 degrees Celsius is 25 degrees for us folk in America.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How do you live with it, John?
Oh, it's nice and warm now. It was -35 the other day with the wind.
Gosh, why are we living here? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for, doing the show. And thank you for listening and downloading this podcast. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys. You get some rest, John. So do you, Donovan, and, smoke that pipe. You drink the rest of that green beer and see if your puke is green in the morning.
Smoke that aromatic cherry.
Oh, gosh. Oh, send us your memes at Gentleman Scofflaw. But make sure that they are PG-13. All right. And, thank you, John. You are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend. And you as well, Donovan.
Thank you.
As are you, Jordan.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you, David.
Very nice to meet you, John. We'll have our names all written. We'll have name tags next time, so we all remember who we are. We'll just have a picture of John Goodman actually up on your screen. If we ever lose you, we'll just have a picture of John.
It'll just be John Goodman from The Big Lebowski. No, it'll be from the Flintstones, just to piss him off. And you guys,
Yabba dabba do.
And you guys have a great St. Patrick's Day. And appropriately to play us out, we have the Poormen that'll play us out. But I mean,
we'll do it live.
What do you mean play us out? I said that weird. The Poormen. It sounds like I said the poor men, like they're poor. It's the poor as in, like to pour a pint.
Foreman.
And
Spell it.
they're a great band from the Massachusetts area, and they were gracious enough to give us the music for this podcast. So go support them, buy their music, follow them online, and you guys have a great St. Patrick's Day weekend.
This has been the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Rise and shine, we got work to do. Hey! Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver.